Okay, so this is the patio and I've got everything out here. It's kind of busy and a bit messy. This is my sweet peas. I've got honeyberry bushes and some herbs. There's mint and lemon verbena, some sunflowers. Picked up a fig that was like £2.50 and it's grown so much this year. It's doing really well. Over this side I've got, in front of the wood store, 10 tomato plants. They're not really ready yet, but if I come in closer we can see some fruits are forming there. And this way I've got some more bits and pieces underneath here. I've got a sack of potatoes that I was trialling out. I usually plant potatoes in the bed down the bottom. There's more herbs and tomatoes. I'm not a very tidy gardener. There's a grapevine in there which my son pestered me for. Oh, hello bee. Oh, and you're off. So I'm going to grow that over the shed once I've cleared away some of the mess in front of it. I'll grow the salads in trays on here. Down here there's a big bush of lemon balm which the bees really like. Coming round this way again, like I said, I'm not a tidy gardener, but it has its advantages. I've got loads of wildflowers. There's frogs and newts in there somewhere, and it's all a work in progress and it never seems to end. I've got some loofahs here. They're supposed to be in a greenhouse, but because it's been so warm I'm trialling them outside. There's the lavender and all the borders down this side. Nut bushes and fruit bushes in that mess there. And we move round to my chickens. Hello chickens. Over here, the one that's not looking quite so great is Mrs. Treacle. If you've been following her story, she's been battling death's door for about a year. Still holding on, an absolute trooper. But she's not terribly well now and she's getting on a bit. So it's just a case of looking after her. I can see her breathing's not very good today. So I'll keep an eye on her, see how she goes. The rest of them are just absolute delinquents. I think somebody's a bit broody as well and hasn't come out of the nest box. I'll have to give her a poke with a stick. Otherwise she won't eat and drink, she'll just sit in there all day. So my lovely husband built me this fabulous run. Needs a bit of a clean out. But it gives them a lot of space to move around and have some fun, and they've got some outdoor bits as well, but I've got to keep them safe. We get foxes around here quite a lot. Oh, I've got a beautiful peacock butterfly just landed on top of the igloo. Hello, gorgeous. Aren't you lovely? Ooh, and you're off. So this is the pots patch, which I needed some extra space because I ran out of space in the beds. So in here I've got climbing beans. These produce big, like butter beans. So you leave them to dry on the vines, and once the whole thing has gone all crispy and dead, harvest them and you use them as dried butter beans. Also got some tomatoes that didn't get planted out. There's always too many tomatoes. 2 courgette plants in there. More tomatoes. These are Gardener's Delight. It's one of the ones I tend to grow all the time. You can use it indoors or outdoors, and I prefer having my tomatoes outdoors. They just seem to do a bit better. I don't like greenhouse varieties. Behind the tomatoes, I'm going to have to move them so that these get some sun. These are the sweet corn beds. So I've got loads of pollen at the top, and I'm waiting for the cobs to start appearing. They haven't appeared just yet. So I've got all of these tomato plants here. So there's another 10 tomatoes there. This is the big damson tree that comes over from next door. It's got a good crop on this year, so I might get a good batch of jam out of that. They're really nice. Oh, I should move around another messy bit. This is my greenhouse. It came with the house. Oh, this is next door's ash tree fell down. So husband has helped cut it all up so it's out of their way and we get some firewood, which is nice. There's another view of the sweet corn. She's doing really well. It didn't look very good at the beginning of the year, but it's improving quite a lot now. In my greenhouse, which is another mess because, like I said, not tidy. This is mainly for storage and plants that absolutely have to be in the warm. So I've got sweet bell peppers down that side, and these big vine things are loofahs. Let me get a close-up of one of these. Gosh, this one's grown like an inch overnight. Look at the size of that. It's going to get a lot bigger. I'm having to cross-pollinate all my squashes. So the flowers, the male and female flowers aren't coming out at the right times. So that one will ripen up, get a lot bigger, ripen up, and when it's completely dried out, you take off the skin, wash out the insides, and that's going to be my pan scrubs. It's a bit of an experiment, see how it goes, but I'm getting a bit twitchy about all the plastic stuff, and even in the greenhouse there's pots of plastic, the containers for the garden chemicals are plastic, and it's just starting to bug me a bit. So if I can reduce little bits like the pan scrubs, well, that'll help. I've started to bring my onions in for drying. I'm just slotting them through the holes on the staging so they can dry out. We're due a lot of heavy rain, so come around and see the beds. This is where most of the growing happens. This is the onion bed. It's all at top end. That's onions. Now they've all flopped over, they're ready to pick. I'll pull them up. Dad reckons you can just leave them on the surface of the soil to dry out, but as I said, we're due some very heavy rain for the next week, so I think we'll bring them indoors and let them dry out properly. This patch at the front, I can't remember what I had in. Oh, that was the garlic. Yeah, the garlic's been pulled for a couple of weeks now. I've put some chard and spinach in there, and once those onions have been picked, I can put something else in the ground. This one is the spuds. It's my potato bed. I've got 4 or 5 different varieties in there, and as you can see, I've started to take the green tops off so that the tubers underneath don't get blighted, and as we need them I dig them up. I don't dig them all up in one go and store them indoors because we haven't got anywhere that's really cool in our house, so I leave them in the ground, and there's a risk of slug attack and eelworm, but we tend not to have too much trouble. Oh, we've got another butterfly over here. I'm going to try very slowly. We've got a lot of painted ladies. Ah, it's gone away. That was a painted lady butterfly. We've got a lot of them at the moment. They're very beautiful. This bed was going to be the carrots, and my health hasn't been so good, so I haven't got as much planted as I wanted to. The bottom end was a few more onions, a few left over from the bag, and some salsify, which is, it's a root vegetable and it's quite nice, very mild flavour, a bit parsnippy, dead easy to grow. In fact, I left some in the ground and I've collected about 1 billion seeds, so I'll never have to buy seed for that ever again, which is good. I've got some rhubarb there in a temporary home until I find it a permanent location. A couple of trays of onions that didn't get in. This is where the broad beans were. I've got some beetroot in there now. Doesn't look like it's doing very well. It could do with the water. This bit, kind of untidy. Salsify from 2 years ago is still in the bottom end. That needs pulling up. This was supposed to be brassicas, but it got took over by weeds and the pigeons ate them all. So I've got some more growing in the kitchen. This is beans growing up a pole. This is my climbing green beans. Well, not too bad. I haven't had a very good crop off them, So next year I think I'll plant more just to be on the safe side. Now this monster, this is the squash bed. This is where we put all the sweepings from the chickens and the grass clippings, and it's got huge. I think it's the warm, wet weather that we've had. It's this one with the really big leaves at the front. There's a Queensland blue squash, and they make quite large, squarish shaped, blue-skinned, orange flesh pumpkins, and they are beautiful. But this is enormous. We've got a few little fruits forming. I hand pollinate as much as I can with this one, and this is all of the others in here are butternut squash, which I love. It makes great soup. And again, we've got a few tiny fruits. They need quite a long growing season, so hopefully these will have plenty of time to ripen up. All of these yellow flowers at the moment are male flowers. You can see they are full of pollen beetles. In there is the pollen. And I take those flowers, and whenever I find a female flower, I dab the pollen into it just to make sure that I'm going to get some fruit. Now, if we turn around, here's my fruit cage, which I got when we moved in. It's a very big one, and if I didn't have this, I wouldn't have any soft fruits, because we have a lot of woods and fields around us, so there's a lot of birds, and I love the birds, but I need to eat too. We've got 6 blueberry bushes, because my son can eat his body weight in blueberries, and they're fruiting at the moment. So if I can get the gate open, it's a bit stiff. We'll go in and have a look. See these beautiful big fat blueberries on here. A nice heavy crop there. It's kind of difficult to get them when they're just right, because if they're too red, they're bitter and sour. But if they're absolutely perfect, they just drop off the bush. I've got red currants and black currants at the back. I trimmed them back quite hard and propagated them in these tubs here. So now I've got 32 black currant bushes, and don't know where I'm going to put them all, so I'll probably have to give them away. This mess, this is the raspberries. Now the next job that I've got to do is dig everything out of here, put some weed membrane down, and put some raised beds in, and try and keep the weeds down, because it's just taking over. We try to have a non-aggressive approach to weeding around here, because we've got a lot of wildlife and I love it. But it's a battle between keeping that and having somewhere to grow food. See, those raspberries are already escaping from the fruit cage. Down here, got a few pots. These are seedlings of trees that have self-seeded all around the garden, and every time I find one I dig it up and I put it in a pot. And this one down here has an oak in it, because we have squirrels and they forget where they've planted their food for the winter, so we get lots of hazel and oak just popping up. I'm coming down this side. I put some beds in for my strawberries. They haven't done terribly well, but you know, it's better than a poke in the eye with a stick. And so this is my garden. There's the compost bins. I bought the hot bin and they're bloody expensive. Can't say it's really been worth the vast amount of money that I spent on it. I mean, it's good and it keeps everything contained, but in all honesty, 200 quid for what amounts to a polystyrene box is quite a lot of money. I've got a kiwi down here. Got frosted badly at the beginning of the year, so it's still recovering. Well, anyway, that's my garden. I hope you enjoyed that.